The road started in Jerusalem. It started some 2,200 miles above sea level. But by the time it gets to Jericho, just 15 minutes, 20 minutes down the road, it moves from being 22 feet rather above sea level to 22 feet below sea level. So within the distance of 15 to 20 minutes, this road from Jerusalem to Jericho drops some 4,500 feet. In this matter of 15 to 20 minutes, the road detours to danger and disaster. It was named the Bloody Way because robbers and thieves would hide in the turns of the road and would jump on weary travelers, beating them, in some cases even killing them. Yet Jesus uses this dangerous dark road to illuminate the path toward eternal life. He says a man was traveling the road and fell among thieves who beat him up and stripped him and left him half dead. Two men from the church, a Levite and a priest, both ignored the man as he laid on the side of the road. Maybe these two church-going people ignored the man because they felt it was too dangerous to stop and help the man as he laid on the side of the road. Maybe they didn't help him because they feared that the same people who had beat the man up were hiding in the curve and were ready to jump on them and beat them up too. Maybe they did not help the man because they believed the man was faking himself and was indeed a robber, ready to rob anybody who stopped to help him. Yet the same road, God help me, caused a Samaritan, the most unlikely of persons, to pause and take a pause in life and to turn the page and transform this dark and dangerous road into a road that would lead to everlasting life. Everyone in this room is called to be a good Samaritan on the journey of life. Everyone in this room has been given the task to help somebody along the way. I don't know why it is we are so ignorant and arrogant to believe that only God hears our prayers and listens to our cries. You ought to be ashamed of yourself if you have taken the position that you are the best thing since sliced bread, that God doesn't hear your neighbor's prayer and answer your neighbor's prayer. But I'm so glad that God can not only hear your prayer, but he can hear my prayer. And I'm so glad that God is no respecter of persons. I'm so glad that God can heal your body and heal my body at the same time. We're all called to be good Samaritans, but there is a special call upon those who live in society to not only be good to people as they travel the road, but there have been some who have received the special call of life to even transform the road itself. I'm talking to somebody in the room. You know that you are gifted to not only transform lives, but to transform institutions. You know you are gifted not only to pick your brother up, but to totally revolutionize an entire community. I'm talking to somebody in the room. You know you are a gift whether the people around you know it or not. God told you you're gifted. I wish I were talking to somebody in the room who needs no validation from people, because you already understand down in your heart, I am a gift from God. That God blessed me with life to make this world a better place. God blessed me with life to make my family a better family, my church a better church, my community a better community. I wish I was talking to about 300 people in the room who could give God the glory, because you know you are a gift. You got to understand that even the struggle, God help me, that took place on this biblical dusty boulevard of ancient days still exists within the contemporary life of living and even in the life of the church. Because the road upon which this man traveled upon and was beat up and left for half dead is still just as dangerous as the road that we travel on even today. Even when we survey the landscape of the church, we have become so worried about packaging and personality realities that we have forgotten about content, grace, and mercy, and even the spirit of excellence that should be so evident in the life of God's kingdom. And as a consequence, God help me, we have run an entire generation away from the church because we have become so engrossed in tradition and self-serving mindsets and territorial philosophies that we have forgotten that man, look at that, the outward appearance, but God's still checking out my heart. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm so glad that I serve a God who does not get caught up in what I got on my back, but knows how to look down into the gut of who I really am. I wish I were talking to somebody. Please don't get it twisted. Everybody who got church clothes on their back does not have Christ in their heart. Must I preach anyhow? See, something new must take place, and something new has got to happen within the parameters of the kingdom of God, because folk think they know you because they go to church with you, and where they have got it wrong and missed the whole point is they think you shouting over a brand new car, and they think you shouting over a house, and they think you shouting over clothes, but what they don't realize is the reason why you give God the glory like you do is because you have kept your mind in an unstable world. I wish I were talking to somebody. Pull on your neighbor and tell your neighbor, I still got my mind. Yeah, you've got to understand that even while everything was a mess around you, everything was still fine inside of you, because you knew buried within you and buried within your mind was the gift to transform an entire environment. I'm talking to somebody in the room. You are frustrated because you are surrounded by people who don't understand the need to change, and you're surrounded by people who don't understand the need to rise to the level that God is calling them to rise to. But I got news for you. You can't wait for people to change. You have got to be the change that you want to see. I got to preach in here. This is exactly now why we celebrate the life of Dr. King, because he lived a life where he transformed his environment. Dr. King's political career and his public career and his preaching career was one that he led the voice of change through the civil rights movement, and it dramatically altered the socio-political, economical road of the Jericho of his day. In fact, the civil liberties that we enjoy today come directly from the ministry of Dr. King. Therefore, tomorrow should not be just a day where you take some time off work, and it should not just be a day where you take some time out of school, but tomorrow ought to be the day where you get your lazy behind up and do something for your community. Shake your neighbor's hand and tell your neighbor, it's tight but it's right. Yeah, we've got to understand that King had a dream to transform his entire community. But when we look at the landscape of these yet-to-be United States of America, we have to raise the same question he raised in 1968. Where do we go from here? Do we go from community to complete chaos when it is that a congresswoman on a routine event with constituents can be shot down in a supermarket? We have to raise the question, where do we go from here? When a former president can get on TV and say the worst day of his presidential life was not when natural disaster hit, was not when we had to go to war, but when he heard the comments of a rap star, we have to beg the question, where do we go from here? When it is that black-on-black crime is still the #1 reason for teenage black death, we've got to raise the question, where do we go from here? When the disproportionate rates of HIV and AIDS are tearing our black women to shreds, and brothers, but y'all ain't feeling what I'm saying, brothers sleeping with women and brothers sleeping with brothers, we've got to ask the question, where do we go from here? Preach, preach, preach. I'm going to. Woke up this morning to do so. Dr. King had a dream to change the entire road upon which we travel. But the dream, my dear friend, has to be reclaimed. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester and soar and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, crushed over and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Does it make sag heavy loads, or does it just completely explode? Those were the words of Langston Hughes, but I still raise the question, what happens to a dream deferred? Ask the American people, 40 million plus, who are still living below the poverty line. What happens to a dream deferred? Ask the people who the American dream is still an elusive nightmare. What happened to a dream deferred? Ask the folk who send their people and their children to schools that are nothing more than institutions of failure, that pipe folk more into prison than they do in the universities. Y'all ain't feeling what I'm saying. Grandmaster Flash just said it like this: it's like a jungle sometime. It make me wonder how I keep from going under. I wish I were preaching to somebody in the room. And all I'm trying to say, God help me in here. I got to preach this thing the way I feel it. God, he's saying, he's saying within the parameters of this story that somebody has got to be the change. Somebody has got to not only change lives, but somebody has got to change the road. Because if the road never changes, then people will still get beat up, and people will still get robbed, and people will still be left half dead. Jesus said they beat the man, they robbed the man, stripped the man, and left him half dead. You miss your shout cue. They robbed the man, beat the man, stripped the man, but left him half dead. Y'all still missed it. They robbed the man, beat the man, stripped the man, but left him half dead. Can I give you the shout in the text? They left him half dead, which means if he's half dead, that means he's half alive. And I wish I were talking to somebody in the room who could give God the glory, because you know half dead means half alive. Shake your neighbor's hand and tell your neighbor, I've been through a whole lot of storm, but I'm still alive. I've had to cry many nights, but I'm still alive. Some folk have walked away from me, but I'm still alive. Shake 3 hands and tell them, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm still